Urgent! Jim Jordan goes to jail. And he doesn't even know. Remember way back when McCarthy said, I can't wait to get the gavel so I can hit Nancy Pelosi with it. Now, a gavel is a hammer. There's no debating that. And then, later on, someone hits her husband with a hammer. So don't go telling me that your words don't mean nothing. I'm Canadian, but I'm not. Who are we kidding? Canada wouldn't be anything without the States. We'd be invaded and taken over, blah, blah, blah. Everybody has a concern about the States, and I'm going to say we when I speak about your leaders sometimes, but that doesn't mean I'm American. So we got this guy, Tommy Tuberville, who wants to dismantle the United States Army, like the whole army, I think. I think that's what's going on with him. Did I say Jim Jordan goes to jail? I meant Jim Jordan is in jail. Did I say Jim Jordan is in jail? I meant to say Jim Jordan is in hell. They all are. Every one of those Republicans are in hell. My favorite author, Dostoevsky, once said, hell is not being able to love. And that's how I'll define it. And in that case, they are all in hell. Please subscribe, even if you don't like this, and like this, even if you don't like this, because that will make me make more videos. And Lord knows we need more thoughtful videos, less Taylor Swift videos, less morons talking, more thoughtful people talking. I might not be right about everything, but I've thought about it. So first off, how do you know not to trust somebody? If they break their word, or if they back somebody who breaks their word. So, therefore, everybody who supported Trump from day one, 2016, should not be trusted. And that includes Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney. Just because they're the least filthy of the pigs does not mean they're not pigs. You could not vote for Trump. You're either stupid or you're corrupt if you did that in the first place. Everybody knew he would. Look, I'm not a politician, and I knew the idea of him being president was a nightmare, and it would be the end of America. I don't think I believe in conversion or redemption, or that anybody's ever sorry for anything. I think they just get caught, or it doesn't work out, and then they regret it. You know, they go to jail, so then they feel guilty about getting caught. But if Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger want to redeem themselves, it'll show in their actions and all their future actions. And actually, it is showing. They are showing the right behavior. So I guess they're apologizing, and I guess they were stupid, and they're admitting they were stupid. So you would say, everybody asks why. Why are these Republicans destroying their country and their party and themselves? Okay, well, first of all, they are basically at the maturity level of a 10-year-old or even a 6-year-old. And a 6-year-old gets a rush when they step on a cockroach or a bug, or they pull the wings off a fly, because they feel powerful. And some adults get stuck at that maturity level. Why do they do that? Why do they do this? Why do they hate so much, right? Well, I believe that ultimately sadists are masochists. It's just projected masochism. They're not nihilists. They are masochists. What Trump really wants is to get punished and tortured. And he gets furious when he doesn't get punished and tortured. That's all he wants. He wants to suffer, so he wants to go to jail and all of that, deep down. And so does Matt Gaetz, so do all of them. And they're just going to get worse. They're going to get more frustrated when they don't get punished. They're ultimately self-destructive. That's why they're trying to destroy everything around them. They want to destroy themselves in the end. That's their real urge. Because if you actually loved yourself, who would go through what Trump has put himself through, or McCarthy, or any of them? It's just misery, you know, getting sued by everybody, having the whole world laughing at you, making fun of you, fighting all the time with everybody. It's exhausting, right? There's most people who love themselves have better things to do, like smell flowers and pick paintings and dance and sing. And you know, play hopscotch and, you know, Build a a wine cellar in your basement. Now, it doesn't help that we live in a system that encourages this kind of behavior, this greedy, selfish behavior. Like any society that considers somebody who's a billionaire to be a success and not something to be despised is inherently flawed and psychopathic. We live in a world where psychopaths are called successes and artists are called failures. Now, in terms of the question that everybody keeps asking all the time, all over the place for the last 8 years, why do they follow Trump? Why do all these people worship Trump? And I've got a pretty good reason. If you get a major television news channel to broadcast you 24 hours a day for 8 years, if they did that for me, I'd be worshipped too. Like, imagine if you had a news channel, one of the biggest news channels in the country, saying that you never make mistakes and you're perfect, telling the world how great you are, and you never ever make mistakes. The whole country would love you. They'd think that you're God. Also, Americans, one of their biggest flaws or weaknesses is their pride, right? We're the best, we're the best, we're the best. And if you think you're the best, then that means your president is also like the best. He's the best human in the world if you're the best country in the world. So it's inherent that you're going to be worshiping your president a little bit more than a country would, a country that doesn't worship themselves, doesn't think they're the best. Some good news. If we learn from this, then we have learned, if there's anything we've learned that money does not mean that somebody is intelligent or a success. We're going to have to re-examine our values system. I once said to my mother, I said to her, you do so much, but you never take any credit, and you make us all look good, right? You remind us when our grandparents' birthday is. You remind us when everybody's birthday is, and then we make the phone call saying happy birthday, and we look good, and you never take any of the credit. Those are the great people, the people that don't take credit for anything. And they're the ones that are, making the world a better place and who you want to be more like. I think it was, it's in the Tao Te Ching. They say, when an average leader leads, the people say we did it because of him. When a great leader leads, the people say we did it ourselves. And one more thing about rich people not being necessarily intelligent. I'm sick of anybody saying that Elon Musk has any kind of talent or ability. His only ability is ripping people off, stealing ideas. That's it. He's a moron. They say that, when he made his initial fortune, those were the days in Silicon Valley where you would have to be blind to not stumble upon a fortune. I've known a few rich people, and they all say, I was lucky, I was at the right time, at the right place. Yeah, I didn't make mistakes, but I was very lucky. Now, Matt Gaetz said something the other day. He said, we don't need a speaker light any more than we need a Bud Light. And at first I'm like, oh, that's kind of clever. He is a kind of a smart guy, isn't he? Even though he's a corrupt, immature, jerk. But then I thought about it, and I thought, I'm an alcoholic. And if there's no alcohol around and the only beer available is Bud Light, you'll drink it. Anybody would drink a Bud Light if that was the only beer. So his little witty comment doesn't even help his argument. It hurts his argument. But that's all their arguments, right? Like they say, if they could do this to me, that means they could do it to you. And again, it sounds good. It sounds like it makes sense, but it makes no sense when you think about it for even 10 seconds. And the other day, this guy, Mike Lawler, he said that Democrats need to put on their big boy pants and vote for, a Republican. And see, it's another example of them trying to turn the argument around and it doesn't make any sense. Because the truth is, Republicans should put on their big boy pants and vote for a Democrat. I mean, if there's one thing we've learned, it's that you can't compromise with Republicans. If they compromise and say, okay, let's let's elect the lesser of two evils. Let's have this one Republican who's not so bad. He's not so far gone in the head, but yet he still voted to steal votes and to, steal the election and to throw out the votes. Like they still don't believe in voting. You can't compromise with or accommodate someone who is greedy in their core. That's their core belief. Oh, another one that I thought was funny was when, so basically, the judge gags Donald Trump, says you can't talk about blah, blah, blah. And Trump goes, oh, that's not fair, freedom of speech. But then Trump turns around and tries to say the judge should be thrown out for what the judge has said. So in other words, he as a defendant should have freedom of speech, but the judge shouldn't. Right? So it's just another example of like turning it around. Right? Like, the teacher shouldn't mark my tests because she always gives me bad marks. I'm going to start giving her tests and marking her tests. And I'm going to score her bad marks. Imagine how stupid that would be if a child said that to their parent. A similar thing recently happened to me where the landlord in my building, they said, oh, sorry, the cleaner quit. So that's why there's all this garbage all over the place in the halls, blah, blah, blah. And I wrote to them and I go, look, if you can't delegate, then you have to do it yourself. I said, if a little child doesn't clean their room and the parent says, you didn't clean your room, and the little child says, well, I can't afford a cleaning lady, right? Yeah, that's the same situation. And if you can't afford a cleaning lady, you have to do the job yourself. So I said to the landlord, if you can't afford or you can't get a cleaner, then you yourself, rich guy that you are, you should be here and you should be picking up the garbage yourself. When Trump goes to jail, it's going to be funny because he'll be saying things like, they're treating me like a prisoner. Oh, and this awful lady, I've always mistrusted her. Kristen Welker of MSNBC. She just took over Meet the Press. First thing she does, first week she has Donald Trump on. Second week she has, who's the second worst? Matt Gaetz on, I think. And the third week I'm like, oh no, who's it going to be this time? George Santos? And it was Lindsey Graham. And I'm like, why? Why would you ask them any questions? They broke their word. One of the biggest things, I'm 46 years old, one of the biggest things I've learned in the last decade that I think is the most quickest, helpest advice I would give is take somebody on their word. If they break their word, it says everything about them. You can't communicate with somebody who doesn't keep their word. You can't listen to them at all, ever. They've blown it. Breaking your word means that your words your words can't be listened to. Even on small things, I knew a guy once who just used words to confuse people, right? He would just use words to try to sound smart. And I said to him at one point, because he was confusing me, he was saying really confusing things. And I says, do you use words to communicate or to confuse people? And he said something like, I like to get a reaction. And so I realized I can't listen to anything he says because he doesn't use words for the purpose that they were invented. Trump needs to be locked up 2 years ago or 20 years ago. He needs to be locked up right now, no matter what the consequences are, and I will explain. Most rational people already agree with me that he should be locked up right now. But I'll explain my personal experience on why I've come to that conclusion. I've met a number of psychopaths in my life that are actually no different than Trump. It's funny because I've said to people, the scariest thing about Trump is that he's the average person, right? The special people, the anomalies are the people who have principles. People like Trump are all over the place. So I knew a girl who was dating a psychopath, right? And he managed to turn her against me. And he basically says, I'm the problem. He said that I'm the problem and she needs to get rid of me. And I'm the cause of all of her misery. So she disowned me. So she accommodated him. She gave in to his will. What does he do a few months later? He tells her, your parents are also the problem. And by the way, after she disowned me, he still said I was the problem, even though I was out of the picture. But then, when I couldn't be blamed anymore, he started blaming her parents. So she disowned her parents. And then a few months later, when, the problem hadn't been solved. He goes, oh, the city we're living in is the problem. So they moved up north. And then a few months later, that didn't work anymore. So he goes, oh, we'll get a dog. That'll solve the problem. So they got a dog. That didn't solve the problem. Then finally, the breaking point, he said that she was the problem. And she started taking antidepressives, whatever, drugs. Because she was the problem. He convinced her that she was the problem in their relationship. Then finally, a few months later, he just said, look, I'm going to drop you off at a motel. They were married. I'm going to drop you off at a motel because you're just like too much of a problem. And that was her breaking point. Because like the selfish person she was in her own right. She says, who drops their wife off at a motel? Right? You get in a fight with your wife and you can't be around her. You go to a motel. You don't drive her to a motel. So then, he's all alone now, thinking that he solved the problem because he got rid of her. But he still has problems, and he still won't admit that he was the problem all along. Now, I had said to this girl, you need to stand up to him right now. He's out of line. He's only going to get worse. It's not going to be solved. There is no satiating this greedy, selfish prick. So I see the exact same thing happening, running the exact same story, and it's going on a national stage where, oh, okay, Liz Cheney's the problem. We'll get rid of her. Oh, wait, we still have a problem. Okay, Kevin McCarthy's the problem. We'll get rid of him. And then before they know it, they'll all be gone, and only Trump will be left, and he'll be just saying, oh, well, I don't understand why there's still a problem. So you lock them up now, and you deal with whatever riots. You deal with them. They'll go away soon enough because they're going to come anyways. That's the problem, is that they're going to come anyways. So you might as well nip it in the bud. Do it now before, you just don't waste everybody's time for another 4 years. It's not just time, it's lives, right? Like human lives. I mean, people don't pay nearly enough attention to the fact that millions of people died from COVID because of Trump. That's worse than any war. Like that's worse than like a world war. I would assume. I remember during the pandemic, they were saying that the most Googled term when it came to COVID denial, it was Trump. But I mean, it just amazes me that everybody fell for the whole Trump BS. I mean, and then Amber Heard, that whole thing where she was like, she caused him so much grief, and he tried to accommodate her and satiate her and compromise with her. And I'm thinking, like, how could you be Johnny Depp and not have run into a crazy psychopath yet? Like, how did he lack the tools to identify what was going on at that age? I mean, you'd think he'd have met his share of gold diggers by now. Oh, side note, you know how people say, some people mistake kindness for weakness, right? Somebody like Trump mistakes kindness for weakness. Well, I came to the conclusion that that's not true. They know that it's kindness. They just don't like kindness because they don't like themselves. So it's like when you tell a girl who's been called ugly her whole life by her mother. There's a girl like that in my building. I told her the other day, I go, I tried to say something nice to her. So I say, oh, you look good. You look good these days. You're looking nice, even though it's not quite true. And she goes, oh, yeah, thanks. I forgot to wash my ass today. And I'm thinking, what? She said it in front of like 3 people. And I'm like, my God, everybody's like, what the hell? And I'm like, it's because she feels uncomfortable being complimented. If you really wanted Trump to respect you, you'd beat the crap out of him and make an ass out of him, and he'd like worship you. So I'm going to close with what I think we should be doing right now and where we should be headed, what the world should be doing right now to deal with MAGA. And I think firstly, the world needs to become independent of the United States until this problem is dealt with. Because there's 10-year-olds running for House Speaker, you can't count on that at all. You need to be independent, just the same way you can't count on somebody who's, you can't count on somebody who you can't count on. So you make other plans, and you plan according to the worst case scenario, which is that they will not elect a speaker until they get kicked out of Congress, until they lose the next election. We all just have to survive until then, because nothing good is going to happen until then. And then when that happens, you're going to have the crazy eight, Marjorie, Greene, Lawler, Matt Gaetz, Lindsay Graham, that idiot, Tommy Tuberville. They'll be the only 8 Republicans in office. And they'll just be whining and screaming, and they won't have any power anymore. So for the next year and a half, there's going to be riots. There's going to be all sorts of mayhem and danger and lives lost because of these idiots. And we're just going to have to survive until the next elections. And we're going to have to just try to get a little bit of solace from the entertainment value of watching Trump go to jail and watching all these people go to jail and watching them all, drop out, retire in disgrace, watching them all eat each other. And then I think we can look forward to a revolutionary, for the better, future. It's just going to be the Democrats, and they're going to get things done. And Ukraine will be fine in the long run. And everything's going to work out just fine, because by and large, everybody knows these people are clowns. It's becoming, and it just becomes more and more hard to deny to anybody who ever denied it. Have a nice day.
If you support gays, click like. If you respect blacks, comment. If you think women are people too, click the notification bell. And if you care about sick children, subscribe.